Boozed and Confused is a comedy and weird topic podcast. Adult language may be used, probably by me. While our episode topics may be educational in nature, we are not responsible if your children start dropping the F-bomb to their kindergarten class. Listener discretion is advised. What's up, weirdos?
This is so awkward. What are we
doing
say?
here?
What do we say? I thought we got out of this business.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Hope you've had a good 4 or 5 months without us.
It was just like summer vacation.
Yeah, just an extended, the Europeans go on holiday, maybe not for 4 or 5 months. We had a little break. This is Carolanne.
This is Matt.
And this is still Boozed and Confused, despite the very long but very needed and kind of unexpected hiatus.
Just a lot of things kind of piled up.
Yeah.
There was the black hole.
What black hole?
In the crawl space.
Oh, yeah. So we went in to go get, a couple things put away for the baby stuff.
Like, it felt like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And we just came out, and apparently it's October 23rd?
Yeah.
24th?
So we got out just in time for Halloween. So, good news for us. We kind of had this realization that we've not had a break. We've done this pod for about 3 years straight. So our 3rd anniversary was over the summer, and we had done this with the exception of having the producer pretty much every single week without much of a break. So had a lot of shit kind of force us into taking a break, and we are back now for your enjoyment or not enjoyment.
And maybe it'll be like 5 months until the next episode.
Yeah.
We got to keep you listening. We got to keep you guessing.
We'll see what the black hole in the crawl space does for us.
Oh, I'm going right back in.
So today's episode is maybe not a great episode to listen to if you already have a fear of flying. I do, and I'm glad I got a lot of my flying for the year out of the way before we record this.
Well, I have crippling fear of flying. My hands are sweaty.
Yeah.
Even thinking about stepping on an airplane. It's
not nice.
And I just hate this.
Yeah.
And, I think I need a break.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we get into today's episode, I want to do the housekeeping items, but I don't fully remember them.
You forgot.
I think we're on all your favorite social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter.
X.
Oh my God.
It's
X.
X.
It's really been that
we
long,
call
hasn't
it?
it?
X now.
Okay. Well, I don't call it X.
X.com.
And we'll see if I even remember. We'll see what happens with that. I have to log back into everything. The next one is if you like the pod and you want to support us, the best way you could do that is by, just telling people what a shit pod we are, getting them to listen to the shit, and then leaving us a review or subscribing or following wherever you get your podcasts. It does help us. And it's appreciated. We like to read your comments, especially the ones that make fun of us.
Yeah, the worse they are, the better for me.
Yeah.
Just kind of like rub my nipples and read the mean stuff.
Boozed and Confused after dark.
Gives me a tingling, unlike any other.
Oh my God. And the last one is, what are you drinking?
It's wine.
Great. Just a white wine.
Because it's a Monday.
Yeah, it is a Monday. So you're probably going to listen to this and it'll be Tuesday.
Well, this is one of the wines I think you got from that one box thing you got that one time.
Yep.
The label says Mercano.
I don't know what that means.
The label said Rioja, Argentina.
Yeah, I know the bottle you're talking about. I'm not sure if that's a type of wine or just a brand.
So I saw Rioja and I was like, oh, this is definitely a red wine. And then I opened it and go, this is definitely not a red wine. I don't usually lean red, but this is Pleasance. I put an ice cube in there because I was told you do that with white wine.
Yeah, naturally.
It's not too sweet.
Yeah.
It tastes like grapes.
Drinking white wine with ice. Welcome to my new podcast. I've rebranded, and now my grandmother is the co-host.
I'm 47 years old.
All right. Well, I'm not drinking because I've got a Waterloo. That was another nice change over our break. I'm now back and obsessed with Waterloo, and this is a cherry limeade. So,
Well, I don't think we were obsessed with Waterloo. It was mainly like LaCroix or like the Aldi off-brand.
yeah. But now we found this.
Now we found Waterloo, and we've got cherry limeade. It's like drinking rocks, but you think of cherry limeade.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so today's episode, we are going to talk about this newfound fear that I have that I'm sure I will share this fear with many people now. So this episode is all about fake airline parts. And I didn't have this fear until I read this article. So today's episode is going to be a summary of this amazing article by Bloomberg. You should definitely read the full thing if you want. We're, again, just doing a summary. They have this incredibly in-depth report, goes into a lot of history about stuff as well. But, you know, for my own sanity, we're just not getting that deep today. So,
you know, gotta get our toes wet again. We gotta
just a
get
little
back in before we have like a 3-part episode.
Yeah. Oh God. So yeah, link is in the show notes if you want to read it. You know, it's 2023. At some point in the spring, there were engineers at TAP Air Portugal, TAP.
TAP,
Yeah,
that's what it spells.
Maintenance subsidiary that were looking at this aircraft engine that came in for a repair, and they handle more than like 100 engines a year, so should be like a pretty routine job, you know. But the workers noticed that a replacement part of the CFM 56 turbine, you should look that up, it's monstrous, it's huge, CFM 56. It's, you know, this part that they were looking at, it's a damper that reduces vibration, showed signs of wear and tear, but the paperwork that came with it said that it was a brand new part, fresh from the production line. So that's like a big red flag.
So it reduces vibration, which is good because vibrating is scary. We're not meant to fly. If we were meant to fly, we'd have wings.
Yeah.
I
forgot to tell you guys, we have an aviation expert on the podcast today, and it's Matt. Vibration is bad.
But I'm like one of those like 13th century experts.
Yeah. We're not meant to be in the skies. So June 21st comes around, and that group of engineers, they point out that discrepancy to Safran SA, which is the French aerospace company that makes those CFM engines, together with GE, General Electric.
Yeah, they do everything. They've got their fingers in
blenders.
They've got their fingers in sockets.
Machines,
They've got their fingers in everything.
So then Safran, I don't know.
Saffron sounds,
yeah, whatever.
That sounds good.
They determined that the paperwork was forged. Okay, so the paperwork that came with that part that said that the part was brand new from the production line, the paperwork was forged. The signature that was on it was not of any company employee. The reference and the purchase order numbers on the part also did not make sense. They didn't add up. Okay, so this is just one incident. To date, at the time that this article was published, about mid-October 2023, Safran and GE have uncovered more than 90 other certificates that were also falsified, and bogus parts have been found on 126 engines, and all of those are linked to the same parts distributor in London, AOG Technics Limited.
So like they've nailed these guys, right? They're nailed.
Something like that, sure.
They are up on a wall,
Yeah.
nails everywhere.
Yeah. So AOG Technics is this little known outfit that started 8 years ago by a young entrepreneur named Jose Alejandro Zamora Urala. Okay, so who henceforth shall just be referred to as Zamora. Okay, so as a result of all of those fabrications, thousands of parts with improper documentation have wound up at fucking airlines all over the world. So major airlines are putting these fake parts into their airplane unknowingly for years. And so not just at airlines, but distributors, workshops just around the globe. So they've ended up inside jet engines, and they've contaminated like a huge portion. Okay, that's maybe a little dramatic. Not a huge portion. There's not going to be like a sudden ground stop.
This is terrifying.
There's not going to be a sudden ground stop.
No,
but
bring on the ground stop.
it's actually not
no
really
planes.
known the full, I guess, amount of engines and planes that have been affected by this.
What an entrepreneur.
Yeah, what a guy. What a guy. So everything in this Bloomberg story, which is why this is so great, is a summary of them going through the legal and corporate filings. There's like regulatory disclosures, social media accounts that they get into. They like really 60 minutes this shit. It's fantastic. And I know what you're thinking, like, oh my God, I'm such a United girly. They would never. You're wrong. You are wrong. It doesn't matter. Everybody was affected.
Everybody. United gets
especially
got.
Frontier.
United gets got all the time.
United, Delta, I'm sure Southwest.
Not Southwest.
I'm personally a Southwest girly.
So am
I. Yeah, all the major U.S. carriers and like half a dozen others were identified as having bogus parts from AOG on their airplanes. Okay. And it's important to note there haven't been any emergencies as a result of these parts yet.
Right, but they have to, like, you have to check everything. Without, you have to check everything.
Oh my God. And so, like, because this is so maybe seemingly out of left field, people are like really shaken up in the aviation industry because all of these safety protocols that were quote unquote in place have now been breached, and people are like, oh shit, look at all these loopholes. So that CFM 56 that we were just talking about, that's the most widely flown engine. Okay, so a CFM 56 powered aircraft takes off every 2 seconds somewhere on the planet. That's how widespread this is. And so now that people are kind of looking into it and they're like, oh shit, do I also have a fake part on my airplane? These parts with like fake certificates have shown up everywhere from the US to China and as far away as Australia.
That's pretty far. That's like as far as you can go.
I don't really know how much further you can get. So who the fuck is AOG? Who is AOG? Who is Zamora? How do you, as a young entrepreneur, kind of start this like fake business and get your fake airplane parts into the hands of like some of the biggest US carriers?
Like it sounds like a terrible market to get into, but
yeah, I would
it's got to be expensive.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so like that's probably the driving factor.
Yeah.
Get into something low danger, like fake phone parts or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Like,
yeah.
Make them blow up in your hand.
Yeah,
it's like
perfect.
a prank.
Perfect. Yeah. So their website no longer exists, but at one point AOG did have a website, and on the site it boasted about having warehouses in like the UK and Singapore and Frankfurt and Miami. It's always Miami. It's
Florida, man.
Yeah. And so it called itself a leading global aircraft support provider with a mission to, quote, keep our clients flying. I guess they've kind of been fulfilling that in a way, because like so far there haven't been any issues, but we just don't really know about that.
Well, like what I don't get is like how this company seemingly fell out of the sky and became this major distributor.
Yeah, like how do you even, what do you like call up United and you're like, what up?
I'll cut the prices. I will beat my competitor.
Know. Yeah, you don't even know. So the site looked so legit to the point where the inventory of parts was listed on the biggest online clearinghouse, and a quality assurance organization endorsed by the FAA had accredited AOG's practices. So they probably looked like really fucking legit, I'm sure, online. But they made all that shit up. They fooled the big aviation names in the process. They sold thousands of jet engine parts forged with, like, you know, records, and sold refurbished used parts with paperwork claiming that they were brand new. So, you know, I don't really know. It kind of feels like one of those things where if you're a specialist in something, like, you would be able to clock something like that immediately. But if you don't ever look at airplane parts, you'd be like, yep, that is a fan.
This looks like it goes in a plane.
Yeah, I don't fucking know.
Is
like,
it toilet?
you probably have no idea. So, like, how does this even happen? Like, who the fuck is buying airplane parts from this guy? How does, like you were saying, like, how does he even get into the network? And my original thought was, isn't flying the most regulated and safe mode of transportation? Like, how, if it's so regulated, how does this even happen? And also, a side note, anytime I do have to fly, I always tell myself, like, my calming mantra on the plane is, people are doing this like every 25 seconds and no one's dying because it is so regulated and it's the safest mode of transportation. But now I don't feel so safe. Zamora.
Makes you wonder.
It does make me wonder.
I feel kind of right.
I
I feel kind of like I've been right the whole time.
Well, that plus the story we were talking about earlier today of the pilot who tried to, the off-duty pilot who tried to turn off the engines of the plane that he was sitting on.
Yeah. You know, we're just driving in the car and you go, hey, and you pause the podcast we're listening to and you go, I've got some bad news. So I expect...
I didn't say I have some bad news.
Stop. This is the truth. I expect a story out of you about, oh no, did old man Jenkins die or something? And no, you're like, some airplane guy, some pilot who wasn't actually flying the plane, just hung out with his friends in the cockpit, and he tried to crash the plane.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible? Yes, that's terrible. This is why I don't like to fly.
Well, if I said, do you want to hear a bad story? And then I told you that, and then I ended it with, isn't that terrible? At which point do you feel like you were set up and not prepared for how bad of a story it really was?
Look, I expect minor inconveniences, minor news.
Anyways, yeah, that story did happen, and that's terrifying, and now I have a newfound fear on top of this one. So getting back to how regulated and safe flying is, yes, technically it is one of the safest modes of transportation, if not the most safe, because it is so heavily regulated. And regulators are obsessed with safety and record keeping. Literally everything has a paper trail. But you know what I found out is not so regulated by regulators?
The parts.
Yeah, the self-regulated marketplace of parts distribution. The self-regulated marketplace of parts distribution.
So self-regulation meaning like the sellers.
So there's these intermediaries that help circulate hundreds of thousands of parts every year between manufacturers, airlines, and repair stations. And, you know, in the business world, networking is everything. So personal connections mean sourcing specialists buy and sell from vendors that they know. Okay, so here comes Mr. 305. It's not actually like Pitbull, though.
Is that what he calls himself?
No, but
I thought he was Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, Mr. World. I mean, he is worldwide in some sense. But it's Zamora. So he's like young. He's a part-time DJ. He's originally from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2015, he establishes AOG in Hove, which we would recognize as being about an hour's train ride south of London, thanks to soccer.
All of our knowledge, yeah.
Yeah.
Brighton Hove Albion.
Yeah. So knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Thanks, Premier League.
Could not find it on a map, but I
Nope.
know they're...
You know what else I can't find on a fucking map? North Dakota. Okay, so, you know, I know it's there somewhere.
Oh,
Pretty
it's
far north.
next to Minnesota.
Is it? I'll look after this and confirm. And then next week's episode is going to be how North Dakota isn't actually a real state.
No, I have a whole PowerPoint, a deck, if you will, all about why we have two Dakotas. It's really fascinating.
We'll see about that.
It's a thing.
We'll
It's
put
a
a pin
thing.
in this topic.
It's a thing.
So he establishes AOG in Hove. He eventually, quote unquote, relocates to a London office address, and really it's just like a mail drop rented from a co-working provider. So it's not, like some super official place. And, it kind of like goes off from there. So he, at this point being October 23rd, 2023, refuses to talk to anyone about like his side of the story. His wife talked to Bloomberg and was like, everyone's trying to paint him out to be a bad person or something.
Yeah.
Yes. Zamora wife.
Zamora wife.
You are right. He is a bad person. But his friends, or like long-term acquaintances, say that they haven't heard from him in fucking months, probably because he's in a lot of trouble. And so, yeah, he was reached at one point by a man named Doug Hensley, who is the Chief Safety and Regulatory Counsel at GE Aerospace, on August 2nd, that he's out of the country on vacation. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like a flight risk.
Sounds
to
like
me.
he's hiding.
Yeah. So who is Zamora? How did Zamora come to be? So he's born in 1988. He's like a jack of all trades, right? So he's been in professions from like music to real estate before he gets into the very lucrative industry of airplane parts.
Was he ever selling like Cutco knives?
Maybe if there's like an equivalent. I really wonder about the legality of like MLM companies in countries outside of the U.S. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. For those of you who are like me, MLM stands for multi-level marketing.
They're basically pyramid schemes.
It's a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
I was almost in 2 of them.
I was in one.
Because I'm afraid of saying no to people.
Yeah. No, you absolutely are. Even the people at Costco who are like, do you want a sample of this Tide Pod? And you're like, yeah, sure, I'll take it.
Look,
and then they're like, no, sir, you're not supposed to eat it.
No, there was literally a Tide Pod sample.
Next to the frozen pizza.
And I was so excited to try one finally.
Yeah. So for a little like fun fact, Zamora's stage name,
what's his DJ name?
Santa Militia. Santa Militia.
It's a lame DJ name.
Yeah, I know. So his wife is an interior designer. They just got married last year, so happy anniversary. They got married in Mallorca. And they were photographed at some super luxury retreat. They had matching Rolex watches. So he's obviously got some money. Or she is maybe a very successful interior designer. Or they're just a power couple. Hashtag slay. Hashtag, I don't know.
Oh, I love it when...
Hashtag boss babe.
Oh, yeah. I love it when the boss babe makes more money than the man, so the man can follow his passions.
So the man can sell fake fucking airline parts to U.S. carriers.
We all have our dreams.
Yeah. He didn't begin his aerospace career until 2010 when he starts as an account manager at AJW, which is like a prominent engine maintenance provider. If you know anything about aviation, it's probably known to you as Walters. It's not known to me as shit, so.
That's right. Same.
So, in its first year of conception, AOG had just 7,800 pounds. Did not have very much money, and it's kind of giving like starting Amazon in the garage, like really young entrepreneur vibes.
Yeah, but Bezos sold books.
Yeah, they're books, airline part smokes. Same thing.
Potato.
So, by early 2019, it had 18,000 in cash and made a profit of 22,000. This is all according to records, financial disclosures. So for the year ending February 2020, AOG reported 2.4 million
with
in
an
cash.
M. That's nice. Oh, cash.
And a profit of 2 million.
He's like, I only take cash. No
well, you
credit.
probably get a cash discount. I don't know. So that's shortly after AOG began selling thousands of jet engine parts with falsified documents. So let's go through this again. 2019, 18,000 pounds in cash. 2020, 2 million.
It's so nice seeing companies do well despite the pandemic.
Hashtag inflation, hashtag no one wants to work anymore, hashtag bootstraps.
So many hashtags for just one episode.
I've just been reading too many LinkedIn posts of hashtag boss babes and entrepreneurs who are actually just unemployable by other people because they're insufferable. So forgeries turned up at an engine services provider northeast of London, a parts supplier in Florida, a maintenance firm in Scandinavia, an airline in Africa, and another maintenance outfit incorporated in Germany, among others. And like we mentioned, these records date back to as far as 2018. So some were like fake, they had fake signatures of actual employees, and then others were signed off by former coworkers. And then I'm not gonna say this name properly, probably. So there's Geoffrey Chirac, Chirac, shares a last name with the late French president.
This sounds great.
Yeah, I don't know. We probably don't have any French people listening to us at this point anymore. They probably...
Well, if you are...
I see one pop up on the map, and they're like, these people are fucking shit.
If you are, buongiorno.
Yeah. And then other signatories have also been fabricated. So several forms were signed by a Michael Smith. And Michael Smith.
Signatories.
What did I say?
Signatories.
Signatories?
The hell's a signatory? The guy who signs something? You said signatures. Signatures?
This is not the plural of signatures. Anyways, so Michael Smith's LinkedIn is now deleted. But he was reportedly an AOG and quality assurance manager.
Trust me.
So his profile picture for one Michael Smith was a profile picture you would also find on like stock image sites. So it was like very clearly probably a very basic.
Did it have like the watermark on it?
Yeah. On these stock image sites, he's described as a confident senior man in a white t-shirt. So LinkedIn profiles of some purported AOG executives also used stock photos that appeared on other websites. And companies listed on the profiles as former employers say they have zero record of any of these people ever existing in their systems.
Oh, this is great.
So this guy went so far as to just make fake social media LinkedIn accounts for these people who don't actually work there, and then just used stock images of everyone. What's really funny is I took the notes out of here, so I can't remember 100%, but some of the companies that have also used that fake Michael Smith photo are, I think there's like an oncologist, different kinds of doctors.
This is also concerning.
Well, have you ever been to like a doctor's website, and of course it's like the fakest looking shit you've ever seen in your life? Well,
yeah, because you got those nice stock images.
Yeah. Well, doctors don't have any money, I don't have any money. I'm just a baby.
I can pay you in pills. Will that keep you quiet?
Oh my
Want some
God.
uppers or some downers?
So, like I mentioned at the top of the pod, Bloomberg's article goes into some fascinating depth about the history of forgeries in the aviation industry. I didn't realize that it was such a big problem in the past. Again, not very comforting, but it was like spanning decades. So I've left that part out for today. It's really interesting. Give it a look if you're into that. But I'm not getting into it in this pod episode. So we're going to look a little bit more at the star of the show.
Right. Well,
it's not Zamora.
I think this is time to plug our premium service. If you get Boozed and Confused Plus, you get all the extra information and no ads.
There is no extra information. We've no extra. We can't. It took us fucking 5 months to get a pod episode.
Look,
going.
And this is a really good episode.
So, the star of the show is actually CFM. CFM, you remember that turbine we were talking about before?
Oh, yeah.
So they made a troubling discovery themselves. Having reviewed nearly 600 of its material suppliers, it too had been directly duped by AOG. So the engine maker's own shops installed parts sold by AOG in 16 of its CFM56 engines. In 4 instances, parts from the rogue firm made their way into the network, including one lot purchased directly from the UK company. And the inspectors for that company noticed that there were major discrepancies with the parts in question, which AOG had previously said, like, no, they're brand new. So, for example, the low-pressure turbine blades CFM bought weren't as bright as they should have been. Again, that's that shit that, like, you would never notice if you don't work in the industry. You
said bright.
Yes, bright.
It's like, oh, the color's off.
Yeah. What? I mean, I'm sure it makes sense if you work in the industry, but they also showed signs of welding and residual corrosion, and if it's a brand new part, that's just not something that you should see. So CFM concluded the parts were repaired, and they were used components, and the company says it plans to review its practices for evaluating suppliers. So I know what you're thinking. I know exactly.
You know what I'm
I know
thinking?
exactly
What
what
am I
you're thinking.
What am I thinking?
Why don't they just take the fake parts out?
Yeah,
Totally.
Sure, that's exactly what I'm thinking. How did you know? This is what marriage does to a person. You just
know.
Mm-hmm.
You just know.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out the cost, both financially and operationally, to have those parts removed is huge. It's not just a simple, like, swap in, swap out.
You just go to the car shop where they do all the work and just get some.
Yeah, they don't have any of those take 5s where it's like a 10-minute oil change that you spend way too much money on, but they give you fruit snacks and water while you wait. The charges to have these parts replaced, removed, could rise to about $300,000 per engine.
Goodness.
That's a lot of fucking money. So airlines that have been, discovering that they have all these fake parts have been told by regulators to remove them. And what's kind of crazy to me is like that these are crucial fucking parts to an airplane working. And it's not like why could this man not go into selling things like faulty coffee makers, bad armrests,
avocados with cocaine in them?
What the fuck? So, worst case, they could just be discarded, damaged components that shouldn't be in that engine at all. Maybe it's like parts that should have been completely retired, and it's just, this whole thing is kind of crazy to me. So GE and Safran are now facing off with AOG in a London court. The engine making partners kind of sought a court order for the documents relating to every single sale of products, quote unquote. They produced those records on October 4th, giving CFM fresh potential leads for things that they now have to go investigate for additional parts. What's kind of wild to me, though, the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, that does not roll off the tongue easily.
I bet there's a great acronym for that.
The EUASA.
Ooh,
EUSA, there we go.
EUSA.
Said it has no power to investigate AOG because suppliers are not regulated. What? The FAA said it encourages companies to maintain a system to detect unapproved parts and to review their suppliers. What? Maintenance companies and airlines that repair planes have their responsibility to ensure any component installed on an aircraft is an approved, legitimate part, and the FAA lacks the resources to do so.
This is what happens when nobody reads the user end agreement.
I mean, that's just kind of crazy to me that, like, seemingly one of the most important parts of an airplane's proper function, they're like, yeah, you could just self-regulate. That's fine.
Do your best.
You don't need our oversight. You're good. You're doing great, sweetie.
Cut some corners.
Oh my God.
Get some parts.
That's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see what happens. This is obviously a very long legal battle in the making. And I I guess we'll see how many more airlines kind of uncover that they've got these fake parts.
So what you're saying is you should wait a few months to fly.
I mean, if this has been happening since 2018, that's 5 years.
So, I mean, I bet everyone's like, oh no, let's just get rid of it and
maybe.
it'll be fine, right? It'll be fine.
My hope would be that, like, either they'd go to install a part and they'd be like, oh, this doesn't look right, or I don't know. I mean, I'm grateful it hasn't led to any emergencies or issues, but holy shit.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah, this is great. Everything's fine.
Wow.
Well, that's our episode for today.
Yeah.
Hope you had a great time, because I know I didn't.
Yeah, so we will catch you again in
4
to 5 days.
Days. Yeah.
Maybe 7.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Definitely not 5 months.
No. We'll see you again soon.
Really soon.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Don't forget to tell all your friends, family, your memas about this shit pod, and we'll see you guys soon.
If you know us personally, don't talk to us about this.
Yeah, don't ever.
Don't bring it up.
Don't you ever say anything to us.
Yeah, we're going to deny it.
With my whole heart.
My whole soul.
All right, see you next week.
Good night.
Bye.